Welcome back. Earlier this month, Josh Weil, a public school teacher from Central Florida, announced he was running for the United States Senate next year against Ashley Moody. In April, Weil, a Democrat, ran in a special election for Congress against Randy Fine, where he raised nearly $14 million. And although Weil lost by 14 points, it was considered a strong performance in a district Donald Trump had won by 30 points. I started our interview by asking him why he's running.
People here in Florida are struggling. Housing and insurance are out of control. There are threats to Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, veterans benefits. Our public education system is under attack, and we need someone in Washington who will fight for the people of Florida. Ashley Moody is committed to serving her party and billionaires and corporations, but I am willing to fight for the people here in Florida.
Do you support President Trump's decision to bomb the nuclear sites in Iran?
The entire purpose of having the largest military arsenal in the world should be to preserve peace, right? It is Pete Hegseth's job is the Secretary of Defense, not the Secretary of Offense. Everything they do should be about de-escalation, the preservation of life, land, and liberty for anyone. If we're going to get involved in foreign conflicts, it should be to ensure the preservation of human life. So I am, if the Iran nuclear issue was really that important to them, then they shouldn't have bailed out of the talks last time.
Well, I mean, they would argue that the region is now safer because Iran, is now much further away from being able to create a nuclear device.
We do also have international coalitions that we're a part of that monitor. We have regulations and processes for these. There is a global community that oversees these things and does not rely on the United States to, do rapid military strikes in order to maintain the system and keep peace. Bombing for peace is something that just is never going to, you're not going to be able to sell me on.
I want to turn to immigration for a second. What's your position on what they're calling alligator Alcatraz, and what are your solutions when it comes to the issue of illegal immigration in the United States?
People, especially in government, right? They show you their values with their budgets. They show you their values with where they prioritize and think money is worthwhile. Ron DeSantis sent money back to the federal government that could have gone to our public schools. He took money out of Medicaid in order to fund his attack on citizens' initiatives. And yet he's more than happy to take it to create what, and let's be honest, it's a fine line between detention centers and internment camps, right? Additional places to remove the freedoms of people who, for the most part, what we're seeing are not illegal immigrants, right? If you're here from Cuba or Venezuela, you're here on temporary protected status, protected. You are here under the government's protection because the nation you came from is listed as a major threat, is listed as a troubled area and part of the world. To be detaining these people who, contribute to our labor, contribute to the beautiful diversity of Florida. This is not what anyone asked for. Down in South Florida, we have the founder of Latinas for Trump. She came out and said, this is not what we voted for. This is not what the people here want. And this is not a solution to the immigration issue.
Donald Trump supporters would argue that if you look at what has happened along the border itself, illegal crossings have come to a trickle. So he has solved the issue of illegal border crossings. The question now is what you do with those who are currently in the United States, such as Venezuelans with TPS, Cubans, Nicaraguans, others, Haitians. What should be done with those folks?
So we've got multiple things here. First up is the data collection of illegal border crossings, right? The data that we get from this administration, and even when they were not the administration, and what we saw from some conservative news sources during the Biden administration, how they have such good tracking and solid numbers of people who are off the record not coming through. And yet there's also the belief that, by increasing tariffs that will slow down fentanyl, imports and such, like that's being declared at the border. And, but where they claim to get the numbers and what these numbers are is fairly nonsensical and non-sourced. So we start from that. Second is immigration is probably the most complicated issue that we have to deal with. It is not a single variable. Border security is one part of it. Law enforcement is part of it. Agriculture and labor is part of it. Tourism, which leads to hospitality, is part of it. And here in Florida, where we don't have a state income tax and we rely heavily on tourism dollars in sales tax from people visiting from other states and other countries, this completely negligent immigration policy that has cascading effects through all of these other areas is incredibly harmful for our state to be able to fund the essential services it wants to, right? So we have an immigration plan here that, before we even get into how needlessly cruel and inhumane it is, right, there's a reason why most administrations don't just go full Leroy Jenkins towards immigration like this, because it has massive economic impacts across the board, right? So this is not a well thought out policy. It is not keeping people safe, right? We're watching here in Florida, we're seeing them go out to construction sites and work sites and just rounding up everyone who's, a shade darker than I am and putting them in ICE trucks. This is not taking criminals off the street. It is just needlessly cruel and targeting people of a specific ethnicity, which really should violate and go against every core value we hold as Americans.
When we come back, Governor Ron DeSantis signs the Tristan Murphy Act into law. We'll have a full report in a moment. Stay with us.